Greetings, everyone. I'm Tony Garcia here with the Cozy Book Nook. I'm here with Tanela Hicks. She's here tonight to sign some books, tell us about her writing journey, and a little bit about her book, Cherrywood Inn. So, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing? Yeah, welcome. It's like Sheldon. This means welcome. This means not welcome. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We've already had a pretty busy event walking in. Had a couple of ladies come in and take a look at your book. So that's always exciting when, especially when family and friends, but even when like people coming in, it's like, oh, you're an author, and come and take a look. Now tonight we're specifically talking about Cherrywood Inn.
Yeah.
How would you start off by telling me maybe a little bit about the book, what it's about?
Well, Cherrywood Inn.
There we go.
Yeah, right. Cherrywood Inn, A Legacy is my third published novel, and it is set in North Carolina. It's a small town romance, and it's about a young girl who inherits her grandmother's inn, and she's challenged with restoring it, bringing it back to life. But she also has challenges because the town doesn't want her there. Mm-hmm. Her family doesn't want her to restore this inn, and so she's trying to figure out how to navigate all that at the same time falling in love because it's a small town romance. And she meets Caleb. The main character's name is Natira, and she meets Caleb, and Caleb is there to help her rebuild the inn, but also he has a lot of interest in Natira. He thinks she's beautiful and strong, and all the things that he's been missing in his life. So
very nice.
That's what the story.
And how did it? What kind of inspired you to do that? I mean, because the thing about writers is that you tend to like, if you just drive past an old house, sometimes it's like, oh, that'd make a great story if you meet an individual. So how did this one come about? So
this one came about a little bit more personally. Cherrywood Inn is heavily inspired by my grandmother, Marion Ford. She passed away in 2021, and she left a really big house here in the city of Dayton. Actually, if you look at the cover, for those looking, look at the cover, the house that she owned looks very much like this, and it's still standing. Wow. And so the story itself... It's
a beautiful home, then.
It's big and beautiful. And something should be done with it, right? So what inspired me was the trials that my family were going through and figuring out what to do with that property, and how you don't let family drama, city drama, people adjacent to you stop you from keeping your family's legacy going on, making it new, making it different. So I decided in that personal struggle that I didn't like how things were going. So I wrote something different.
Okay. That's that's a great idea for the story. And how many it's a pretty good sized book. And and one thing about indie authors a lot of times is that when they first get into writing stuff, it's hard to write bigger books. Like I went the opposite. I started with a big book, and now I'm like down to short stories because it's so hard.
Well, Cherrywood Inn actually comes in at 39 chapters, so it's really not any more longer than the average. It's really thick and big because I'm a little older. The print is really big.
That's become very popular too.
So that's why it has the girth, but really the chapters are short, they're sweet. The story is told from Natira's point of view for the most part, but you get a lot of Caleb, who is the love interest in the story, and he also has his own challenges transitioning. He just moved from Chicago to the small town where nobody wants him there, nobody wants him to be there because of his family legacy. And so it's told from both of those viewpoints throughout.
Oh, that's very interesting. You go from a big city to a small town, but especially you already have a history there.
It's hard. I don't know if you've ever moved from big to either back home or a smaller town, but it's very challenging when...
For me, it's the opposite. I went from small to larger.
When you move from something always hustling and bustling to something slower, you experience so many different isms that you don't know how to handle it. And Natira gets a little bit of that, but she's comfortable with that because Natira lived overseas for some time. She's very world traveled. She stayed away from her family so long. So her family is already disconnected, partly because of that. Caleb, on the other hand, was very much city man, and now he's living in a small town. He don't know what to do with himself.
Oh wow, yeah, I can imagine that'd probably be some experience for come from Chicago or come from New York down to a small town for sure.
Very small, under 5,000.
Now all of a sudden there's you're driving and there's not a line of traffic. everybody just moves slower.
And everybody knows your business.
Because you're not one face in 8 million faces.
Right.
You're like, you stand out a little bit more. How long have you been writing? Like,
in total, since I had to think about that. My oldest is 14, so 16 years, 17 years.
Okay. Now, did you start with writing into books, or did you move into like writing like short stories, or?
I used to write short stories, but not in a way where I wanted to share them with the world. I've always been creative. I've always made up things in my mind, and I love reading. I love reading. But the first thing I officially wrote was my novel, Dreams of the Heart. And that one came by way of a dream I had when I was pregnant with my son. It was a very hard dream. It was a very scary dream. And I turned it into something that was more about strength and love. So that was my very first thing I ever wrote.
Well, how long ago was that?
Dreams of the Heart was published in 2017.
Okay.
I started writing it in 2010.
Right.
So it took a very long time. So my first book, it took a good 7 years. There was like a year or so where my main character was on punishment and I wasn't talking to her. So I set her down.
But happens sometimes.
It took a good 7 years to bring to full fruition and have a book launch and everything. My second book came a lot faster. I published that in 2019.
Okay.
And that story is totally different from my first and my third. And I was able to move through that a lot faster. And I think it was because...
Are they unrelated? Like all
they
three
are
books?
unrelated.
Okay.
But Cherrywood Inn is the first in a 4-part book series.
Okay.
So Cherrywood Inn 2, subtitle, not yet to be released, will be available March the 9th. That is when my next book...
Of this next year.
Of this next year. And that story also is already together, already done. I won't be sharing with others what it's about, but it is based off of characters that you'll already be introduced to in A Legacy.
Okay.
This series is not just meant to, emulate what happened with my family and because it's not apples to apples. It's not exact. Don't nobody go searching for the exact people. You're not going to be able to piece it together like that. But it did make me want to tell a story about a black family living in a country town that's predominantly white.
Does it take place in like a particular area of the South or the Northeast?
It's in fictional Cherry, North Carolina, which is very much based off of Oak Isles, North Carolina, which is a real place. Right near the water, but still some grasslands and country farming.
So a lot of times, like where it's going to take place, also kind of like tends to move the story too. So. But yeah, when you started saying like how you wanted to kind of present like how it was to be in that specific, like that people kind of know like what kind of like area they're working with,
right?
Because there's like every area is slightly different as far as like northeastern or you have the Carolinas or even south,
right?
Like in Arkansas and Alabama and over Texas, it's all.
I want people to feel like they are in Cherry, North Carolina. So this story is based off of Natira and Caleb. The next story, which I can share, is based off of Randy and Sarah, and they live in Cherry. Now they're not at Cherrywood Inn, but Cherrywood Inn is right down the road. So if you think of those TV shows you watch, like Gilmore Girls or something like that, where they're all based on the same little neighborhood, you get to know a little bit about the postman, a little bit about the baker, a little bit about the butcher who left the wife for the baker, right? So
it's like a spin-off where it has a lot of the similar characters.
Yes, but we're all in the same town.
That's interesting. Now, as far as timeline, do they place after each other, or are they around the same time?
So currently, yes. Book 2, yes. Book 3, yes. Book 4, I can't tell you.
Okay.
Because I haven't fully decided.
Okay.
So,
that leaves you with a lot of options when you go that route where you have to, go with different points of view at the same time if you wanted to. It's very...
It does, and when you're writing, I would suggest, I'm not a pro, but I would suggest think about what's marketable. And you look at other romance authors, especially small-time romance authors like Denise Hunter or even maybe some of Colleen Hoover's early work. They don't navigate far regionally. And when you're creating stories in the same town, that's very marketable. Readers love that. They love to go back to that same town and, oh, I remember him. He was the such and such. Oh, he's dating such and such now. They like that. So
yes,
I decided to write. I decided to write within that genre.
Well, it gets you like attached to the characters, and that's kind of like what writers like to do. Now is doing like I know maybe not in future books you can't tell and stuff, but like how do you feel about killing off characters like that people get really attached to?
Did you see my post last week? I feel, for me, my best stories have been, I'm not going to say seated in grief, but grief has been a pivotal point in a character storyline. So, killing off characters is something that I look forward to doing. I'm looking at
forward to doing. Wow.
I look forward to doing to help develop the character.
Oh, very nice.
Now, am I going to tell you who's going to get killed off? No. Am I going to tell you how?
Yeah.
I am not.
Love them all.
I love them all.
Try to figure it out for yourself which one's going to die.
Now, I do not care for, and this is just me personally as a reader, I don't care for on the page.
Yeah.
I don't care for that only because I'm a crybaby. So I really don't care for that. But an off page death or, a prologue where there's someone that has passed and then the character is working through that, it makes sense.
Interesting. A lot of times they try to include the death so that they could kind of like for ratings almost like, it's kind of like.
Yeah, I can't say I would never. But it's like it's going to be a likely no for me.
Very interesting. That's good to know. Somebody who wants to get to know your writing style. That's actually a pretty good knowledge about what to expect in the books and stuff. Like that's why it's because that's the way she.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of writing violence or death on scene, especially violence against women or anything like that. But it doesn't mean I won't reference it or use it for character development.
It's real life, and and your books do have to kind of reflect real life to an extent. But yeah, I'm the same way. A lot of my books are got to be PG-13. It's just the way I was raised and the way my personality is. But at the same time, I also got to make sure I include real life things in there because otherwise you're not really believable if.
So you mentioned PG-13. Let me make clear. This book is not PG-13, okay? So just for some clarity, Dreams of the Heart is a romance novel. It is very close to PG-13. There is some heavy hand-holding, dreamy eye looking, but it's for the most part clean. Cherrywood and not that level. So just keep that in mind. It is Hallmark with a spice.
Mama, why are you sweating so much?
Yeah, but it's not all the way down, which I do enjoy dark romance as well, but it's not down the dark romance road. Again, because that kind of leans into violence to me, and I don't really care for that.
One of these days, we're going to do we're seeing now the bookstores do a little spice
spice
stuffy
level.
or something, and kind of decide where the spice level is going to be. I say spice level 1 to 5. Where would you think that'd be?
We're 3.5, 3.5, 3.5.
All right.
Dreams of the Heart is like a 1.5, if that.
Right.
And then my second book, and I don't mean not to dismiss my second book, it's just so different from my
right.
first
You
book.
said it was different.
I would say that's close to a 3 as well on Spice. But that one really focuses Twin Souls, a Blue novel, is a urban fantasy romance, and the characters are discovering themselves. They're discovering powers that they didn't know they have. They're trying to figure out why they have these powers. What am I supposed to do with these powers? Why are people after me? So the romance is in there.
Yeah. It's almost a different genre. It sounds.
It is a whole different genre. That book has the romance in it because the characters have to find a way to connect to something because they've totally lost themselves. But romance does not drive the storyline in that particular book.
So I got a question for you as author to author. A
author.
lot of times the advice seasoned authors would give newer authors is that if you really want to be successful, you need to stay in your lane, pick a genre and stick with that. But I'm all over the place with my books. As having say one middle book that's totally different. Have you noticed if it's been positive or negative as far as or neutral or not noticed any difference at all by having different genres? I
have noticed that first of all, let me say the advice that I would give is don't listen to everybody else's advice. Do what you want. I feel like if you want to write multiple different types of books, then you can do that. There are many authors that do that very well, and somewhere deep in my psyche, I strive to do that. Like John Grisham writes mostly legal thrillers, but a lot of people don't know he's written some literary fiction pieces. He's written comedy, so you can go ahead and do whatever you like. For me, I have noticed a difference in, I'm not going to say the support because my circle is tight. But in reception. Twin Souls is very hard to conceptualize because nobody in real life is going invisible. Nobody in real life can make, at least that we know of, can make that teapot float from there to over there. So it's hard to grasp. With my first book and my third book, it's contemporary, it's set in the real world, it's with people dealing with issues that you may have dealt with before. This has happened to you, this happened to a friend, and I've noticed the support is a little bit stronger. So there is a difference. For me, I went back to contemporary romance because like I said, the story's inspired by my grandmother, so it was real life events happening to me, moving through grief. But I went back because I felt like I was the strongest writing in that genre. So that's what worked well for me. Why not try it again? And now that I won't say I'm stuck, but now that I've started this series, I already have it. Book 2 is almost done. I'm plotting book 3. I'm here for a while, so I might as well be here.
I find that seems to be more of a almost like a traditional author. Like if you went the traditional route with going through a publishing company, it makes sense for them. Like Stephen King, wrote under Richard Bachman so he could write, sci-fi. But now everybody knows.
Everybody
knows. Richard Bachman.
Yes, everybody knows now.
So it's irrelevant.
But it didn't start out like that. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I didn't know he could do that." And his first science fiction book wasn't as well received, and I think it's because people pigeonholed him into the one thing. But if you think about his horror stories, they're very much science fiction adjacent. He
started writing for science fiction articles for Science magazine, for like science fiction type magazines. But I find like that's one of the things I like about being an independent author too, is that I'm free to write whatever I want.
Whenever
I think when it comes to writing a lot of different genres, people become more appreciative of your writing style than necessarily what you write. Like everybody made Daniel Steele. We have like 70-year books. All romance, and you have some that just all they do is romance, and it works. If you stay in one little niche, you build your, focus on that one niche, it may grow faster. But I find that at some point authors maybe get tired of writing the same niche, or they become burnt out, or it's like then they're stuck because that's all they've written. Whereas as independents, that you start off at the beginning writing different genres or what you like, then you're not pigeonholed into that at the get-go, and you have a little more freedom. Although it may be a little more explaining, I feel like as a writer, as an artist, it allows more creativity.
It does. And I write in other, I won't say genres, but I write in other styles in my work that's not published novels. So I write a blog. I'm very active on the blog, and I do everything from TV reviews to movie reviews. I get very in-depth on my movie reviews because I love movies. I write narrative, emotional pieces. I write pieces on writing. I have a few short stories with celebrities that I've written, and those stories are still me, still my style, but definitely not my genre. My story about Michael B. Jordan. If you ever see this, hey, check out my short story. It's still romance, but it's more social justice. What would you do if you were on a picket line with Michael B. Jordan? Like, literally, that's the story. That's an option? There's so many stories I want to go home and write now. You can do it. So, but like you
One or two with Michael B. Jordan, but the rest would be like Key and Peele.
You can write whatever you want, though. So I decided to make up this story about one of my favorite actors, and this is what I said I was going to do.
That's a great idea. But yeah, not only that, but you also get to practice writing like different styles too, so you don't get like it may translate into like novels and stuff as you like practice these different ways of writing.
Yes.
And kind of mature through that as what you want to write. Does any of the other styles of like writing ever like bleed in? As your books ever come across as maybe like it starts, because like my first book took 10 years to write too, and one thing I noticed when I finally finished it is that the way my writing was at the beginning was different from the way it ended, because there was such a big duration of writing in between.
Yes. So my style of writing and my method of writing changed greatly, partly because of experience. Secondly, because of my editor. Get an editor. Me looking at camera. Where the camera? Get an editor. Learning so much about how to write more efficiently. But mostly because I was a different person. I wrote Dreams That Are Hard in 2010. It's 2024 now. So, I've changed. Hopefully, as a writer, you change some as a person, so you should change a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the only downside of having a book that takes that long to write is that so much happens in your life and so much mature in your life experiences that I almost had to go back and rewrite the entire book because the beginning was so much different writing style than the end. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to get back to seeing if anybody wants to buy any books and maybe do some after. But thank you so much for coming and sharing. Again, her book is Cherrywood Inn. We have it on our shelves and we have it on our online store. And Tanela, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh wait, I did forget. We do have one more thing to do. I think we're going to open it up to the public.
Okay.
We do have a live studio audience.
Yeah.
Live studio audience, are there? Yes.
Thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it. It means the world. I hope my story, if it's this story, Cherrywood Inn, or any other story, touches you in some kind of deep emotional way. And if it doesn't touch you, pass it to the next person because it's going to touch somebody.
It will reach someone.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions from the audience? I mean, I know some of you are fans, but oh yes.
Do you have a writing routine?
Oh, good question. That's
a very good question. So when I write, yes. So I don't write every day. I know that's a thing that people say you should do, and you really should if you're really working on getting better. But I have 3 kids. I have a husband. I work full time. My 3 kids are in 4 different sports. So I do not write every day. But when I write, my routine is pretty simple. I need a bowl or a stack of pickable snacks, cereal, M&M's, something grabbable and eat. I need a drink, whether it be tea, but it's mostly wine. But sometimes it's tea, but generally it's wine. And then I need music. I have to have music when I write, and depending on my mood, that might be something like R&B soul music to lo-fi music, or 90s hip hop. It depends on what I'm into, but I always have those 3 things going. And I'm typically at my writing desk or on my porch. You're welcome.
It's amazing how much headspace is important to writing. I think that's almost like trying to get into that headspace to write is one of the biggest challenges people have, especially going working full time and having a whole family. And then trying to change gears into writing. You almost have to have a ritual to get yourself in that mood.
I have to have a ritual, and it literally takes me. So say if I tell myself, Sunday, okay, I'm going to write at 2:00, right? All my things I'm going to be doing to be done by 2:00. Really what that means is I'm not going to start typing till 3 because I have to get my stuff set up. Then I have to go to Google and do a full internet search for whatever it is I was thinking about that day. Then I normally spend time on social media because then I get into the author business brain, which is totally separate from writing. Did I post enough? Did I make a graphic? I do those things. By 3:00, that's when I'm actually writing. So it is a whole process. I do tend to write at night as well. I can stay up pretty late, 2, 3, 4 to write. I don't do good in the morning, but if I have a free day, I can write in the day. But in the mornings, I'm not as fresh. Yeah.
Very nice. Baby, baby. Baby, do you have a question too?
I had concepts in the question.
All right. What's your concepts? I'm here for your concepts.
Well, I was wondering what's your top advice for someone who's trying to write their first book?
My top advice is don't worry about formatting. Don't worry about is the sentence structure good. Don't worry about grammar. Maybe a little bit about spelling only so that you could be proficient in seeing what you wrote, but not to the point of spell checking. Don't spell check during the process. I write without punctuation, without capitalization throughout my first draft every single time. That's probably been the constant that I've done. And then on my first pass, I go through, I capitalize, I punctuate. Then I do my grammar after that, and then it goes to the editor. That's what editors are for all the other stuff. If you're trying to create a story, especially if you don't know where the story's going to go. Like for me, Cherrywood, for the first 3 books, I know exactly what's going to happen to the characters. I know the problems. I know what they're going to overcome. But if you're working on a story and you don't know what that is, you don't want to spend time trying to figure out, did I spell the name of this city right? Yeah. Or is this city really close to Nashville? Mm-hmm. The reader's not going to care right now. So just write blank city in Tennessee and keep going.
Mm-hmm. Good, great.
That's my number one advice.
I need that.
Now, one question I do like to ask authors: are you a pantser or plotter? There's 2 different
Plotter
types. Yeah.
So I've been both. For Dreams of the Heart, I was a pantser. The story centers in on the tragic event that happens to Jamise, the main character. That event was literally a dream that I had, and it's cemented. I can word for word tell you what happened now. But everything else, I had to build a story around that made that event better, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, pantser. Cherrywood in, plotter. Wants the inspiration of what I saw happening in my own family with my grandmother's house and how my family went through healing in their own grief. I was able to plot out what's going to happen to the character, and I did that. I did that for Randy and Sarah, which is in book 2. I've done that for the next characters, which are in book 3. No, I'm not going to say what those characters are. My book club is like really like.
It's so hard. It's so hard as an author not to like leak stuff out. Like,
but I already have plots that have written out and strong outlines, so I'm able to fill them in with good juicy details.
I always ask that because I've never heard the terms. Until we had a bookstore and I started interviewing authors, and I started watching. It was like, what the heck is a pantser and a plotter? And then it was like, more research is like, okay, first of all, I'm a pantser, and second is like, I want to know what everybody else is, because it's like that. That's just like an interesting dynamic. Like as far as there's authors that they have their entire outline. And that's how I've always been taught to write. Right. Do an outline and then stick to that, and then. But I've always felt like there was something wrong with me because I was always kind of just sat down and just like I always tell people I pretend like I'm watching a movie and I'm just writing what I see.
I feel like that is. I think either way is okay. Honestly, the pantser method. If you're intentfully trying to embrace it, it comes off. You can see it in the writing. Mm-hmm. It's called, the story has no direction. Right? That's what
that's like my personality, so that kind of works out.
Well, it's kind of like if you're not naturally that person, you can see it.
Right.
Now, if you're naturally that, then it comes together the way it's supposed to come together. But if you're trying to just be free form intentfully, and especially like procedural, books like what's his name? Steve Closer. He always does the shit Navy stories.
Okay.
Or anything. You know who I'm talking about? Yeah. Or David Balducci, the other guy. Yes.
We got a few books.
Those stories need to be like, it's CIA. Crime happens. They have to find out. So you need to plot that out, because otherwise you'll be all over the place. Romance novels, you don't need to plot as much. You can be a little bit more freeform.
That's actually very good advice, because I've also kind of noticed that too in some of the things I've been wanting to work on myself. Like, I'm going to need an outline for this, because this requires a lot more thought as opposed to just being able to write. You know, and so I never really thought about that, but you're right. It kind of depends on the kind of story a lot of times that you write. I bet if we looked at who's a pantser and who tends to be a plotter and the kind of stories and books they write, you kind of, okay, and that does kind of fall in that category, because in those areas you can, whereas something that requires more structure, especially if it's going to be part of a trilogy or something like that, then it's much better to have that plot laid out.
Outlining your character's details is helpful. I do that as well, because I will forget in a heartbeat. What did I name that character? What was the character's middle name? How old did I say he was? Those are things that I do have a hard time with even now. So I started using a chart that I keep up on my desk. And I look and say, now, where did I say her mom was from? Okay. Because you don't want to duplicate. And readers, like in certain book clubs, will call you out on it. Like, but you said his middle name was Randy in book 4. You're on book 17, and now you're saying it's Josh. Which one is it? It's like, how do you remember that? So,
I found in the fantasy trilogy I worked on and never finished, I used D&D sheets to help me, like, for the character sheets, because I had all the bio on there. I mean,
those
short the the numbers. I was able to put all their descriptions on there and keep those sheets. So very good advice. Very good. Any other questions from anybody in the audience?
Have you ever thought about writing sci-fi?
I have. In my dream world, I would write. In my dream world, I would write a story about an alien living on a different planet and trying to figure out how to get to Earth because they want to live on Earth and not on this different planet.
They don't want to come to Earth.
For me, I feel like that would be a really interesting story. But my problem is, because of my personality, I would find some way to put love in it. And how much love do you put into it without turning it into a romance novel? That's probably where I would struggle the most at.
Sci-fi romance.
It could be sci-fi romance. It could.
For that.
Yeah, sure.
She's sitting right here.
She's sitting right here.
I would definitely read it.
So, like, if you think about it, a lot of stories where there's aliens involved, it's always about the aliens here, he needs to go back. The aliens here, he wants to go back. The alien's not supposed to be here, and people are trying to make him go back. And maybe they're going back, they want to take a person with them, but you never hear about it like the alien is there and wants to be here. You never hear, at least I haven't read any like that. So that's an idea that I've had for a while, but we'll see. We
still got like 4 more books to read. Yeah.
We got March, and then again in November, and then the last book will be in June of 2026. So I gotta make it through that, and then maybe I can kind of put my head around. And that my editor is gonna hate me for that because I would be switching up what she knows, but she would just have to roll with it because I really would like to write in multiple genres. So
Very nice. Very nice.
You gonna do that soon?
yes, I'm gonna.
Very nice. She came prepared.
Through
That's right.
Yeah.
She came prepared. Well, Tanela, thank you so much again for joining us, and thank you for visiting the Cozy Book Nook.
It's such a cute place. You guys should come check it out. Listen, can I give a pin?
Please.
Okay, I know you're gonna. Okay,
Oh,
come check out the Cozy Book Nook. If you want to support indie authors, if you want to see what people in your local town, right here in Dayton, Ohio, are doing, come here, read their books, get their books, because indie authors, not only do we need your support in buying our product, we want to share it with the people that we're around. So come check them out.
Yeah, her books are going to, like I said, going to be on our shelves, they're going to be online. All of her copies are signed. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why we have a passion for indie authors. They're just so passionate. I mean, traditional authors are, don't get me wrong. But when you have that, when you have to, like, when you're self-published, you're independent, they're just, you have to do everything, pretty much everything yourself. Editing. Sometimes you can get an editor, sometimes you don't. Sign covers, sometimes you have somebody, sometimes you don't. You know how to learn how to upload, how to learn how to order books, how to learn how to go to
create
vendor
your
events.
own graphics.
Yeah, you go to vendor events. I don't know a lot of like traditional authors that will go to like a merchant market, to sell their books. But that's how I sold most of mine. So they're just very passionate people about getting their books in the hands. And if you ever if you go and buy a book from so-and-so, like larger bookstores, the more traditional, they'll never know you bought that book. They sell hundreds of thousands, but you come here and you buy a book, and I send her notes, say, hey, we sold 3 copies of your book this month. I mean, it's not even the money. It's just like 3 people have your book now. And that's just so exciting. And we every time someone comes and wants to sign a copy of one of my books, or I sell a book off the shelf, our greatest pleasure as book sellers now is that we get to tell those authors, hey, it's like we sold one of your books off the shelves. And being, more selective as an indie bookstore, it's like if you go into a larger bookstore, and even if you have your books in there, they may be buried in rows of books that nobody will see. Here, when you walk in, all our new books are indie author books, so you're front and center, So it's really exciting when people come in and they're looking at indie books and they're buying indie books and they're just like, oh my gosh, who is this person? It's like, well, she'll be here Tuesday.
And I come to book clubs. That's the other thing I didn't mention. If you have a book club and they read my book, or If you want to read my first book, I will come. I will discuss. I make it really fun. I bring fun freebies, and I bring candy.
Oh, definitely take advantage of that.
Candy. I can't say I will always bring wine, but that's usually a typical if that's the type of book club you have. If not, it could be tea and water too. So
we're the
come
Cozy
on
Book
out.
Nook Show. She don't bring wine. We'll probably have wine here already. But yeah, so definitely come check us out. We're definitely going to be doing book clubs. We're going to alternate between traditional and indie books. So we want to kind of like have people allowed to have just a taste of everything. Next year, I plan on doing like a brew, almost like a beer crawl type every month, going to a beer brewery, pairing up with like a date nail trail, stuff like that. To kind of go and get those stamps and stuff.
I'm like beer.
But yeah, we got some ideas for book clubs just to kind of keep it fresh, keep it fun. But again, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We look forward to selling your books, but also looking forward to having you come back out here again, especially when Cherrywood 2 comes out. We hopefully be able to either have a book launch or at least get you over here to start selling some copies. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so
much.
And
thank you so much for everybody in the audience that came out.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And thank you everybody online that took the time to watch this interview. We greatly appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Please follow us, and please join us next time as we have another great indie author join us. So have a great night, everybody. We'll see you the next time.